Welcome one and welcome all. It is Tuesday, October 3rd. On October 3rd, he asked me what day it was, and it is in fact October 3rd, 2023, our first roundtable in the best month of the year. We are live on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel, Blog on the Boys Twitch channel, and the Blog on the Boys Facebook page, as we are every single Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And that's every Tuesday, including the off season, but we don't have to worry about the worst time of the year. It is the best time of the year. The Dallas Cowboys are 3-1, and we are here to talk about what might be the biggest regular season game in the Mike McCarthy era. I say we. My name is Ochoa, and with me tonight, we actually have 4 roundtablers joining me. So we have a 5 set here tonight. To get things out of the way, you can see, hear, read all of their work all throughout the Blog on the Boys universe. So make sure to do that. Make sure to subscribe right here to the YouTube channel or the Twitch channel, like the Facebook page. We also do podcast this show as well. So if you are listening on the podcast feed, please subscribe there, leave a rating, and write a review. Let's go in clockwise order. And this isn't any kind of favoritism. This is the order that they arrive to the stream in. So Danny Phantom, you are the early bird. What does the worm taste like?
You know, I paused a little bit just to give Tony time to sneak in there, but he lollygagged, so it feels weird to be here, to be quite honest. I'm not used to this position, but I'll deal with it.
Tony Catalina, you were second for the audio audience, but because of our 5th edition here tonight, our 5th overall person, 4th player, you are kind of in that normal, for the viewer right corner, although again the size of our screens is a little bit different. So do you feel kind of at home? Are you actually kind of happy that you were second because of the alignment of the screens?
Yeah, it weirdly worked out. It's a little tighter box here, but I'm still in my corner, so I'm okay with it.
By the way, Tony, I haven't said this to you. I've been thinking about it for the last few weeks since you got that new chair. Are you one of the judges on The Voice? Because that's what it looks like with the particular kind of shade of red behind you.
Yeah, I got to spin around, slap the button down, and make my pick. Yeah.
Well, maybe you'll be picking the audio stylings of Chris Halling. Chris, you actually implored to be on this roundtable. I didn't tell anybody else, but we don't have to say why, but you had another kind of thing take off, and there was a subject matter that you really wanted a piece of, and you said, I want to be on the roundtable again this coming week. So here you are.
Yeah. No, I mean, I missed being on here. I missed defending my title, but I'm glad that a member of the Writers Block was able to win it last week. My guy, Brandon. And I'm seeing in the comments already that I'm already getting some criticism for Dak hate, which is not the word I would use to describe that at all. But, we can get to that later on in the show.
You did offer some choice words about the quarterback of America's team on the latest episode of the Writers Block. Brandon did not actually win last week's episode. He won 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
David Howman won last week. So we do have a Writers Block thing kind of running. Nevertheless, so if it isn't Howman, it can't be him tonight because he's not here. Maybe it's you, Chris, or maybe it is you, Brandon. Maybe you sandwich Howman. Maybe you're the Brit.
I might be. I mean, we got to go for a three-peat here. I'm kind of hoping we do that, and then we can go for a 4, 5, 6. We'll just keep counting. But
okay, LeBron Clements over here.
Yeah, exactly. But it's nice that my buddy Chris Halling is actually next to me for the listeners out there. So it seems like it's the Writers Block versus Phantom and Tony. So it'll be fun.
There's some seniority above the top row here. We've all been here for a few years. You guys a little bit more than me, but there's a little bit of seniority at the top.
Danny, I think that was Tony's way of calling you old.
Wow.
I mean, because you are in the first spot. Those are his words, not mine.
That's not what I heard, RJ, but if you want to just kind of get us all riled up, that's fine.
Riled Up is there is nobody from Riled Up here, to be clear. Riled Up is a show on the Blog of the Boys Podcast Network, but neither Tom nor Roy are here. Chris, you did have 5 points taken away from you.
Hey, listen.
At the scoreboard tonight, you're behind the 8 ball already, Chris.
Hey, listen, the only thing I want to say is that, Mike is already, he's only in his 3rd season and he's the best player on the team. So, we can talk about all his seniority all we want to, but, I'm still coming for the win.
You know what? I kind of have been inspired. Danny, can you speak for a second, please, about anything you want?
Yeah, I'll say that I think Zach Martin is got seniority on the team, and I'll gladly, take that role any day. So, I mean, if you want to come at you with the 3rd year, what are you trying? You said you're trying to say Micah? Halling is
Danny,
going.
I'm ready. Thank you for tap dancing.
Yeah, Danny's in his 70th year.
So because this was all an accident, the way your screens did align here on the episode, Chris did want to join, and we already had 3 of you, so that gave us 4 players. I feel like the digital judge in a Mario Party game, we're just going to change the rules. The red and blue squares or colors are kind of sorting themselves. instead of a 4-person game tonight, it is a 2v2 match. Tony, you dubbed yourself and Danny Phantom Team Seniority. Obviously, Chris and Brandon share a show that is the Writers Block. They will be TWB tonight. Is everybody cool with this? Brandon, you were nodding. You seem very excited. I'm
very excited. And by the way, you missed the other point where you always give me a hard time for being the last guy on the program today. So I just wanted to clean that up.
Chris, your guy, your teammate's already like asking for negative points, even though you have some.
To be fair, Chris already got us negative points. So, I mean, what the heck?
I just got us +2 points for confidence if you read the comments. So.
For the audience at home, we will hand out an individual award as well that I won't tabulate as strictly, but the point is, please award your points throughout the evening to individual players, and we'll obviously assign them to the teams that they are on. You don't have to worry about typing out seniority or TWB. You all are already in the right and proper rhythm. But nevertheless, we do have some points to kind of get to then. So Chris, you had -5. Danny, you picked up 5 because wisdom comes with age. Said Chris will learn one day. So a bit of a snap for Chris Halling, even though Chris wasn't the one who kind of opened that can of worms. That was Tony's fault. David did give 2 back to Chris for the confidence. You guys are net 0. Brandon, you did lose 1. Says there's no crying in the roundtable. And then Chris and Brandon have lost 2 once again for not having Deron Bland #1 in the Writers Block. You all did do.
I had Deron Bland as #1 in my list.
It's an overall aggregate sort of thing.
Don't skip Diesel's comment.
Well, hang on. I have lost 5 points for having the Eagles above the Cowboys in the power rankings. Diesel, to your point, Tony, says this is going to be a blowout. Danny and Tony are going to trash you guys like the Giants. I will award points for creative trash talk. You know what I mean? And clever trash talk. So that is just something for you all to note. We are here, obviously, on the Tuesday ahead of what is perhaps, I said it, going to be the biggest regular season game in the Mike McCarthy era. So that being said, Danny, you are first. And what we'll do is we'll go, I'll let you know. But Danny, true or false, this is the biggest regular season game in the Mike McCarthy era. And if true or false, why, please?
I think so. I think the reason is because I feel like we now know that the Cowboys defense, they're going to go out there and they're going to do their job. And now the only question is, can they clean up some of the things that's happened on the other side of the ball? And McCarthy has still been under the spotlight. And, there's some things that they got to get better. But, I mean, he's got to be able to beat these good teams. And this game is going to set the tone for the season because, I mean, basically, that 1 seed is at stake already. And we're at week 5. And we're talking about 1 seed is at stake. If Cowboys lose this, the 49ers drop 2 games behind. They're going to be, we might as well just kiss that goodbye. So I think this is the game that McCarthy needs to come out and says, okay, my team is as good as I make them out to be whenever we go into the playoffs and all this confidence that they have. So he needs to go out there and prove it. And this would be a huge stamp for him. Don't get me wrong. If he comes out and is able to come away with a win, this would be huge. So absolutely, I think that this is one of the top biggest games for McCarthy.
Chris Halling.
Yes, yeah. I would agree that it's a very big game. I think it is the biggest regular season game under Mike McCarthy so far. Truly just because, we have that chip on our shoulder after these past 2 losses to the 49ers in the previous 2 postseasons. And it's going to be a big measuring stick game for us throughout this season, at least up to this point, being able to see how we stack up. It's going to be a big test for the defense to see if they really are still that elite #1 defense in the NFL that we all hyped them up to be prior to the Trayvon Diggs injury, and that some people still believe are, after that injury. And it's going to be a big test for Dak Prescott and the offense as well, and see how they can produce against that high-powered defense.
Tony, this is a different question, but kind of related. Is it okay? Is it kind of pathetic? Is it whatever that the Cowboys are making such a big deal out of a regular season game? And we're in the first week of October. And I mean, they themselves have said, like, this is not a regular season game test. This is a pseudo playoff game. Now, to your teammate Danny's point, there is seeding on the line potentially down the road. You do have to factor that. But, if I'll be straight up with you, Tony, if the Eagles were talking about a Cowboys game like this, I think we'd be laughing and pointing fingers.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment, but I think the team understands what the 49ers have done to them over the last couple of years, right? Their season has ended at the hands of the 49ers. I think there's a lot of conversation and rhetoric around this team having not being able to get over the hump that is the 49ers. So to sit here and say it's not a big game would would be to say that you're not listening to the players themselves. We've heard CD Lamb say in like week 2 that, week after week 5, the 49ers, that'll be like the test. Jonathan Hankins said, I think we'll get them. This is a big game. Jerry Jones alluded to it. They got Dak Prescott pissed off after a 38-3 win, Todd Archer with the question. So they themselves have told us how big this game is. So, I mean, when they're saying it, I'm inclined to believe them.
Brandon, are you comfortable with the Cowboys saying it's a big game? Because, like, if they go out and win, it's like, hell yeah, we called our shot. You know what I mean? Like, we said it, we wanted it, we got it, we're here, we bagged it, let's go. But if they come out this whole week and they're like, hey, man, this is big, this is not a normal game, and they lose, or God forbid they get blown out themselves, like, then what happened? Then it was like, hey, you told us this was a big deal and you lost. Like, what does that say about you? Like, it's a risky game to play.
Sure, it's definitely a risky game to play. And listen to Jerry Jones, what he said today. He said the Niners are the favorite to win the Super Bowl. So, like, Jerry Jones doing what he usually does. He likes to fire, under the media machine out there. Yeah, and here's the thing for me with this whole Niners Cowboys thing. It makes me feel like, as a young kid watching the '90s Cowboys and Niners, that was a lot of fun back in the day. And I'm looking back at that, and I'm also thinking, okay, this could be the '90s version of it, where the Cowboys were pretty darn good at last time I checked. And here's the thing, and I'm a bold predictor on this one. I think the Cowboys are going to win. I just, that's just my feeling on it. So even if they don't win, and it's still a close game, they lose to a team that even their own owner says is one of the favorites or the favorite to win the Super Bowl.
Danny, a lot of the commenters are kind of okay with this overall kind of thought process. Donnie says we should be they're a better team, or why they're a better team than who we face so far. Go Cowboys. Let's see here. By the way, Chris, Rick says love the t-shirt Dak wore on the press briefing. That was a photoshopped picture, just so we're clear.
It was photoshopped, and I think it's so funny because I've seen that all over Twitter today. Everyone is talking about, oh, he wore that. Listen. It was on. I mean, it was honestly incredible Photoshop because it does look real. But yeah, no, that was just an advertisement for this shirt company that I promoted on my Instagram page. And Dak didn't actually wear it, but a lot of people are talking about it. And even the Eagles fan base, I saw a couple of tweets from them. They're like, "Oh, this is so corny that he would wear that," and all these different things. So it just shows that people will take the bait.
We don't have to talk about them. Tony and I were talking earlier. I accidentally riled them up earlier. It was a bit of a tough scene for my mentions on the artist formerly known as Twitter. But Danny, back to the point at hand. AJ says it's a team everyone is predicting to win the Super Bowl. So why is it not a big game? Skylar says it's a big game. We all know that, but it's not a season-defining game, which is nice. Diesel obviously throws it back to the 1990s when Jimmy obviously called out the Niners ahead of the 93 NFC Championship game. Put it in big bold letters. We're going to win the game, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, are you all right with the Cowboys? Do you view it as that, like, hey, it's the elephant in the room? They're just telling us, like, there's an elephant in the room.
No, I am all right. I think it's huge, and I think that I want the players to be thinking like this is a huge game. And I honestly, I wouldn't be laughing at anybody if, because this Week 5 matchup has been circled for a long time. They came into the new season probably as arguably one of the two of the best teams, if not 1, 2, they're at least 1, 2, 3. So I want them to have this mentality that this means a lot, and I want them to go in there and basically it's a litmus test, because those guys have just they've ended us last 2 seasons, and the Cowboys need to be able to show that they can hang with these guys, they can beat these guys. If this season is different, and I mean, if they come out of this with another disappointing loss, then I just think it's going to be just a reminder that we're just not ready yet. So does it mean that something won't change come postseason time? I don't know, but I do think that this is super important, and I want to see the mentality of this team. If it doesn't end with a victory, I just want to see just an onslaught of fight with this group, and they come out there and play with aggression. So, I mean, it's a huge game.
Tony,
to kind of piggyback off of that,
your teammates.
To make it clear, this game is a big game for the Cowboys, but understand in the big grand scheme of things, like let's say they beat them, Sunday, you know what the national narrative is going to be. Okay, you couldn't do it in the playoffs. Like this, they're going to minimize the loss. I mean, the win. If they lose, then it's like, yeah, the 49ers got your number. So make no bones about it. No matter what happens Sunday, the Cowboys are going to be in a no-win situation, publicly speaking. This game is big for their own mental, their own reasons. They want to go out and beat the 49ers. They know that they can do it, to show that they can put a good game together. So all of this is for internal confidence. And because if you're on X or Twitter, whatever it is, like what the conversation is going to be. So this game is important for them.
You guys, Team Seniority. I almost called y'all Team Love on Top. Great song by Beyonce, because y'all have a lot of harmony going on. You are on top with regards to our kind of formatting here. But you guys are kind of running away with this. Brandon, Chris, the score currently 30-13 in favor of Seniority. So you guys have a lot of work to do here throughout the rest of the show. I want to go around and get each of yours opinion on something. But before, I need to offer you the context. And I wanted to say this somewhere on our channels just to apply that context in case anybody saw the clip that Tony, you were talking about. I was on Kay Adams' show earlier on Tuesday. I don't know if you guys saw this. If you didn't, what the hell? That really hurts my feelings. But either way, I mentioned with regards to how the Cowboys are talking about this game, I said, yeah, this is a measuring stick. I echoed everything that you guys have said at this point so far. And I said, this is all about, everything is about beating the 49ers. And I said, the Cowboys don't view the Eagles as a threat. They view the Niners as a threat. And I didn't mean that we all take our shots at the Eagles and things like that. But I didn't mean that with disrespect to the Eagles. But the Cowboys have kind of owned the Eagles in terms of head-to-head play. The Eagles have had more successful seasons. There's no denying that. They've obviously won a Super Bowl in recent memory. But with regards to when they play each other, none of us, I don't think, have ever been worried. We haven't, vomited the week leading up to an Eagles game because we know that Dak Prescott generally has their number. But this is very different. I don't think it is shameful to admit that the 49ers are our daddy. They own us. They own our team. We have to admit it, and they live rent-free in our minds, the way I think we like to joke about our team living rent-free in the minds of the Philadelphia Eagles. So we'll go around the bend. We'll start with Chris Halling. Who can you think of, you're obviously the youngest of the group, that has owned the Cowboys like this? This does harken back to the 90s because that's what it was about. It was, this team has owned us. We have to get through. It is all about that. But who have you felt like? The only answer I can come up with is Aaron Rodgers, one specific human being.
I was going to say Aaron Rodgers. So you kind of took that from me there, but I could honestly think of really just them or even the Patriots when they had Tom Brady. Cause Tom Brady did have that high record against the Cowboys up until that last playoff win that we had, sending him into retirement. But yeah, it's been bad for the Cowboys and 49ers rivalry since I've been alive. I unfortunately wasn't alive when things were going well for us in that rivalry, but hopefully we can change that on Sunday.
Brandon.
It's an obvious answer. It's the Cardinals. We're already talking about Aaron Rodgers. We're talking Tom Brady. Of course. Those are layups. But let's be honest. We talked about it last week. The Cowboys. I think they've won one game in the last 15 years against the Cardinals. It's ridiculous. It's the Cardinals. I thought they were tanking for Caleb Williams at this point. But the Cardinals, they had our number this past, the week before. So to me, it's the Cardinals at this point. That's the one that I would think of off the top of my head. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers has done what he's done, and obviously Tom Brady's done what he's done. So out of a non-Hall of Fame quarterback situation on their team, I'll go with the Cardinals on that deal because they unfortunately they've dominated the Cowboys series-wise over the last 15 years.
I think the Cardinals is actually maybe the best answer. It's just the losses haven't been as devastating. They've just been regular season, early season losses, so they don't hurt anywhere near as badly. Danny, I think we're all going to agree that Green Bay is probably the answer in Aaron Rodgers. But do you agree that the Niners are the Cowboys' daddy right now? That's what the whole idea of this discussion is about. You have to prove yourself against this specific team.
I only think it's it feels that way because it's just the last two seasons. And as someone who kind of grew up into that rivalry of the 49ers and Cowboys and cried when, Dwight Clark made that catch, but I feel like the Cowboys got their redemption in the 90s. So I don't have any sort of hostility towards we got to get them back now. And to be quite honest, if you think about recent history, the Cowboys have not just beaten the Niners, but they have just smoked them. And the Niners have been just kind of who are those guys? So recently, yes, I see it. I understand. Obviously, when you get bounced two years in a row by the same team, it feels that way. But I'm not I got a lot of Niner friends and family out there, and I'm not at all going to admit that they own the Cowboys. And so I don't feel that way personally, but at the same time, they are a team that, similar to Steve Young and that monkey off his back that he got, after losing back, 2 years in a row, we have to go out there and show that we can beat them.
I would offer that the teams the Cowboys have smoked, that the Kyle Shanahan 49ers have been quarterbacked by some pretty tough options. I mean, so that's like, in terms of after the program really, kind of catalyzed or there was a catalytic moment for it, it's been tough sledding.
Yeah, I want to clarify. This was before the Brock Purdy and Garoppolo era.
Right.
So,
well, actually, I think to be literally true, they had traded for Garoppolo when the Cowboys beat CJ Beathard, but it was like 2 weeks into it, and they waited a little bit to ultimately bring him out. But Tony, that's part of what's so frustrating about this is, like, with the Aaron Rodgers ownership of the Cowboys, there's a face to it, right? Like there's one person who we could channel our hatred towards, but it's not. It's Jimmy Garoppolo's Niners smoked the Cowboys. Brock Purdy's Niners smoked the Cowboys. Christian McCaffrey's kind of new to the whole thing, right? Like, there isn't one person that we kind of feel this angst towards, which is why it is all directed towards the team as a whole.
Yeah, I would point my angst towards Kyle Shanahan, because it doesn't matter who's under center. They whatever they're scheming up schematically is obviously a kryptonite to us. And I went on record on the show last year, and I was like, the Cowboys are going to solve Brock Purdy. I was unimpressed. I thought, like, eventually the slipper wasn't going to fit. It was going to strike midnight. And I was
2
wrong.
years ago, Tony, you wanted them in the wild card round. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, 2 years ago, I wanted them, and I paid the price for that. And then again, I doubled down last year, and I was like, you know what? I'm not impressed with Brock Purdy. I've been wrong twice, and so you look at it sometimes, and you look at it in the boxing analogy, like styles make fights. What the 49ers do has been a thorn in the side of the Cowboys. So it's tough to say anybody, but we're talking about individual performances. Randy Moss, Thanksgiving, 1998, 3 receptions, 163 yards, 3 touchdowns. Like, that was the most personal, disrespectful, performance I've ever seen in my entire life. And
Adrian Claiborne begs to differ.
Yeah. But Randy Moss was like, you didn't take me, and I'm going to show you why you should have taken me. So
Chris, you have patiently raised your hand, and so have you, Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon, I'm sorry. I'm going to lose us some points here, but it has to be said. I would argue that Kyle Shanahan hasn't been the thorn in the Cowboys' side against the 49ers. It's been our offense. It's been Dak Prescott. We had 12 points with him in last year's game, and then we had 17 points with him the year before. And I'm not trying to, talk mess on Dak Prescott. I say the truth about Dak Prescott, and everyone acts like I hate him. That's not the case. I really like Dak Prescott. He's a top 10 quarterback, but he just has not played well against the 49ers the past 2 seasons. And that's an unbiased fact. He hasn't played well. Our defense did what it needed to do in its last game against the 49ers. And I know the run defense wasn't great in that wild card game, but, Dak really couldn't get anything going offensively either. So, I just have to kind of take that, stance and be like, hey, Kyle Shanahan isn't the one who's just game planning us up the entire game. We really haven't been the best team offensively in either of those matchups.
Why do you think that is?
Hold up. Let's be cool, guys. It's a team game. All right. Brandon, you had a point, but we're gonna stick with this Dak thing. I don't know if that was your point, but let's get yours in very quickly, and then we'll hit the Dak subject as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, Chris brings his his honesty to it, so I appreciate it. But I do have to land this plane a little bit here with Chris's take. I'm a Dak guy. Everybody knows that, so I think we balance each other out to kind of be Dak neutral, I guess. Because me, I've said Dak 5K all season, all off season, 40 touchdowns, all that. So I just want to add that. But I do want to do one thing really quick. And I figured Danny would bring this up because he is the elder statesman of the group. I figured he was going to bring up the Steelers in the late 70s and 80s because they kicked the crap out of us for five.
I'm not that old.
Jeez, guys. Let's be cool. Danny's a nice guy. Wow. Okay. This Steelers is a good answer. This let's kind of segue to Dak as a specific kind of discussion point, because Charles McFadder says Chris was spot on.
I was expecting a lot of hate from
Danny, Tony, just so you know, just from the crowd, Chris picked up 20 points. So Brandon, you should really be patting your teammate on the back, because you guys have taken the lead off of his one answer there. So Danny, Tony, you both kind of wanted to chime in there. In a minute after we talk about Dak, I'm going to ask you all who is under the most pressure for this particular game. Dak and McCarthy are kind of obvious answers, so we won't include them as options. But talking about Dak specifically and the pressure he's on, Chris has a literal point, Tony. And Danny, I'd love to get your thoughts in a moment. this is kind of a spotlight game for Dak Prescott. It does feel like the hyenas are ready to be set loose if he has a really poor performance on national television, throws some interceptions, and feeds the idea that this team does own him.
The problem is with this is it feeds into the narrative and it rejects nuance, right? Like, why does Dak Prescott struggle against the 49ers? Because they're a good defense, right? Like it's not like it's, a bad team. It's quite simple, right? You look at what he did against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the week prior. Did he just like drop off a cliff, or possibly the 49ers have a good defense? Like, so realistically, if a team struggles against the 49ers, you might say, oh, it's because he's not the worst quarterback in the world. It's because they have a good defense, right? So with that being said, it is a big game, and it's a big game because they've spoken to that fact. They've told you they want this game to be big. They told you they want to exercise their demons. They didn't have to say that. They chose to say that. And, I was going to walk into this week and have an unpopular opinion to say, like, regular season match, treat it like any other week, go out there and win the game. Like, I don't care who it is, go win the game. But they didn't allow that. They didn't even get out of the press conference after beating the Patriots the way they did, before mentioning how important this 49ers game was. And Hank can say, we're going to win. And it feels like a playoff atmosphere. So the 49ers are a good football team. I think that's what gets lost in this. They're probably the best football team in football right now. So with that being said, if Dak Prescott doesn't go out there, and if he goes out there and doesn't play well, I'm not going to be the one to be like, oh my God, throw it out. Like, he's no good. This is, he's got their number. It's like, he does this. They do this to a lot of teams and a lot of quarterbacks.
Danny, just so you know, before you go, Tony lost 5 points for your team. Kevin has taken 5 away, saying Dak is paid to perform against good defenses, and that is the problem. That does seem like a really, diluted way to look at this, Danny. But there is some truth to that, right? Like, to Tony's point, the Cowboys and Dak, everyone has said it's a big game. Okay, Dak, well, if you told us it's a big game, then like, at some point you got to show up in that big game. And like, I'm not saying, I don't want to do the like Dak's never shown up in a big game thing, because he obviously has. And, we don't have to be silly about this, but like, if you're going to call it, if you're going to lay this out, you kind of have to deliver. Is that not fair to say, Danny?
No, it is fair. And I think that this is going to be the year that we have to pick a side between McCarthy and Prescott, if things don't go well, because honestly, we're just running out of people to blame, and we blame the defense and Garrett and Kellen and whatever. And so if this offense doesn't work, then somebody's got to explain to us why. Is the game past McCarthy up, or do we really need to take a long look at Prescott, and is he doing enough to win games? And we all know he's a good quarterback, but to Chris's point, is he doing enough to win games? And he's got to be great sometimes. And I just wanted to add one thing. When we look at the last 2 playoff matchups, you look, Quinn got worked over pretty good by Mike McDaniels in the first go round, and then Quinn showed up and he actually did a good job last year. But then it was D'Amico Ryans who just outplayed Kellen Moore, so to speak, last year. So this is really one of those games where it's like, okay, you've made changes, Dallas. Mike McCarthy, here you go. Let's see what you can do now. And we need different results. Is it going to be on the arm of Prescott, or is it going to be McCarthy's play calling? But I tell you what, if the offense goes out there and sputters, heads are going to roll. Somebody's head's got to roll. So I feel like we're getting to that point. Chris, you were next.
Yeah, I just feel like, like, all respect to Tony and his point, but I just don't think that that's a fair point to make, to be like, oh, he's like, he gets a pass because it's a good defense. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to get over that hump at some point. And if he's not the guy to do it, then, I mean, are we just going to keep not getting over that hump because, oh, it's a great defense by the 49ers? I mean, at some point we got to have a guy who's going to do it. So he's got to do it this year. And I admit, last year, like, things didn't go great for him. He didn't really have great production from the wide receiver 2 position. Our most explosive player on offense got hurt, Tony Pollard. That kind of threw a wrench in the offensive game plan. But all of his excuses for why he couldn't perform against that defense last year has been, I think, resolved this year. Michael Gallup's playing much better than he did pre-injury. We have an explosive player in Brandon Cooks, and Tony Pollard's.
But that hasn't translated. Like, I think
it hasn't translated.
We need to dial it back on Cooks to teeny bit.
Yeah. I mean, it hasn't translated, but it's a guy who is still a better third option than who we had last year. So, I mean, all of his weapons are much better than last year, and we have our running back. So if it doesn't happen this year, then I mean, when is it ever going to happen? I mean, we have to put some blame on somebody. And I mean, like the defense did what it needed to do in last year's playoff game. And at the end of the day, I do think that playoff loss was on Dak. So I'm hoping he can, change that and play better on Sunday.
Brandon, the last time you spoke, your team was trailing significantly, but you guys are up at the moment, 48-42, your biggest lead of the night. You've been quiet. You've been kind of sitting back and letting everyone fire off these takes. Tony's about to freak out up in his top right corner with all the conversation that's happening here. What are your thoughts? Because there is something to the blame. The water has to go somewhere, right? Like if the water's going to break the dam, it has to go somewhere. And so I hate to simplify things and say you have to blame somebody, but I mean, there is an inherent pressure that is on Dak that to Tony, some degree is unfair and exacerbated because of the position that he holds, but to another that is extremely fair and objectively warranted. Brandon.
Don't blow it, Brandon. Don't blow it.
I'm not gonna blow it.
Don't get conservative here.
It's not unfair. Like I don't like he's the quarterback of America's team, so you're expected to perform. You're respect. You have to get out there and you have to perform. That's exactly what you need to do. You have Tony Pollard. I mean, Chris has mentioned all these dudes. I mean, Jake Ferguson's playing well. We have one of the best trios of receivers in the game, and the issue is, Dak, he hasn't been there in the clutch moments like that Cardinals game. That situational awareness, he forced the ball in there. So for me, like, I love Dak. Y'all know I love Dak. But sometimes when push comes to shove, he needs to step up in these bigger situations. So for me, Chris made some really good points, and I'm sitting here just listening because, he was stealing my thunder because I'm sitting here listening to it, and he made some great points with Dak Prescott. And at the end of the day, you're the quarterback. You're the field general. Like, you have to lead your troops to victory. That's how it goes. That comes with the territory. If you're gonna, if we're gonna sit here and make excuses, then is he the franchise quarterback? I mean, I think he is. But if there's doubt there, if you're making excuses for him, then for me, okay. So are we gonna pay him when his next contract is due? Like, is he worth it at that point? Like, is there something in the background where, okay, like are the Cowboys secretly getting things ready for Trey Lance? We don't know these questions yet. We have a lot of things to figure out.
The Trey Lance thing is like that's a little far fetched. Okay, like the Dak conversation is fair. The Trey Lance, gear we've hit is a little, I don't know if there's tea in here.
I don't think it is. Why not bring him in? I mean, he has the talent.
But I mean, because like multiple things can be true. It can be true that Dak Prescott is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL and that he struggles in this particular moment against this particular team. It can also be true that, maybe for some people that struggle is worth moving on. It wouldn't be in my mind. But at some point you have to overcome that struggle. Now, Tony, again, you have really had this like internal wrestling match that you've allowed to be shown on screen. So it's been this great dichotomy happening all over the place here. There's tension and I enjoy it. I'm going to change the question a little bit for you, Tony, because to different degrees here, your fellow roundtablers are prepared to blame Dak, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. But like, I think you're jumping to the defense just a teeny bit too early. I think Danny's saying like, hey, like there is definitely a world where this is Dak Prescott's fault. Chris is saying that. Brandon literally verbatim said he prefers Trey Lance over Dak Prescott. Those were his exact words.
Don't put it out.
But that being said, Tony, what would have to happen for Sunday night you to be lying in bed and go, damn, this was on Dak? Like what would, again, within the realm of realistic possibilities and probabilities, what would have to happen for you to, because right now it sounds like, I'm not saying you're moving the goalpost, Tony, but it sounds like you're like, well, he's playing a really great defense. That's true. But at some point, like that cannot be the factor that wins out.
Let me, I mean, the thing that I've been literally stewing on for 3 minutes, I just want to touch on that real quick before I get to that. Like, we were so close to the answer and we just didn't cross the finish line. Like, Danny was like, well, in 2021, Mike McDaniels got us. And then it was D'Amico Ryan last year. And it's like, who do we blame? You don't blame anybody. They're just a good football team. You know what I mean? Like, a good football team beat you. Like, Chris shaking his head. Are you going to deny that the 49ers are a good football team?
They are a great football team, but who is responsible for us not crossing the finish line last season? It's Dak Prescott. He threw 2 crucial interceptions.
You just said they didn't have enough weapons. How do you blame him in the same breath?
They didn't, but we paid him and put these expectations on him to kind of take that next step and carry
the
franchise.
Multiple things can be true. It can be true that he was set up poorly. It can also be true that at a certain point, that cannot be the overriding factor. That's unfair to ask, to a certain degree. But again, there's context that's necessary for all of this. Again, to the current question, Tony, what would have to happen for you to say, you know what? I mean, he had it all. It was all there for him, and he just kind of laid an egg.
I mean, if to your current question, you would have to have multiple turnovers. You would have to start doing things that I haven't seen in this offense. He's been highly efficient, right? Like he's taken what the defense has given him. He's almost averaging 80% completion. He's doing what is asked him. The only thing that this offense really hasn't done well is the red zone things. And it's been silly, stupid mistakes.
So what if they falter there? Like what if they falter in the red zone, an area where they're known to be deficient in what they are describing to be a bigger than a normal regular season game?
If their known deficiencies stay deficiencies, I'm not going to feel more worse about it. What I mean?
That the blame for that has to fall somewhere. That's everyone's kind of point here.
Where does it fall right now? Do you think it's Dak Prescott right now? If you don't,
I don't
why would
think
it change after 1 week?
I don't think he has 0% responsibility. That's
sure.
But okay, so
I guess
you're sounding like, oh well, it's just like everyone's really great that they're facing and they have a deficiency, and if the deficiency continues, then it's just their deficiency.
No.
It can't be a deficiency forever.
I just don't live in the world where like credit can't be given. Like we have to throw somebody out. That's not what I'm
But
thinking.
no one is saying throw out.
Literally
blame on
3
is
guys
not
out here said
out.
somebody has to pick a choice. Somebody has to take the blame.
Danny
All
said
3
the
of them said
McCarthy
that.
Dak thing at the end of the season. But again, like what would have to happen for you to put whatever percentage of blame?
He would have to play significantly worse than what we've seen thus far. He
played in the game last year in the playoffs.
Why do you think that is?
That's my argument. I'm not saying anything about his play this year. His play this year has been much better than last year. So
if his play all of a sudden dropped off in week 5 and it's the same opponent that he had struggled with in 2022, where do you think the common denominator is?
But then what if they face that opponent in the playoffs, Tony? I mean? Like
yes, I understand that eventually if you want to win the Super Bowl, you got to beat that one team. But if we're going to sit here and say we keep getting bounced by one team, I'm not going to be like, well, Dak and Mike McCarthy got to get thrown out. It might have to do more about that one team.
Okay, and that's fair. But if that one team continues to own you, to use the verbiage we've used here tonight, like at a certain point, you have to break through. Like at a certain point, like even if they are the best team in the NFL, you can't rely on not having to face them. And so again, I think that I'm not hearing anyone say like, if they lose on Sunday night, then we got to move on immediately. Like no one is saying that. But
I'm not saying that we need to move on from him in the regular season right now. I'm just saying that he has to take some blame for it. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think
he's not absolved of blame. I answered directly what the question was. If he plays worse than he has played to this point, then yes, Dak Prescott will get the blame he deserves. Currently here, it may be fair here. The national media it'll be nuts, but it'll be justified within the people that I trust in this network. With that being said, that'll be justified. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, wow, Dak Prescott played really well against the Patriots and then didn't play against the 49ers well. Like, is it because he stinks? No, it's not because he stinks.
Again, no one is saying it would be because he stinks. It's like that. This is a bit of a straw man argument at this point. It would be like, it would be, he can't beat this team. And it's not just he, it's they, it's the entire collective group. But if he were to have similar struggles, again, we can chalk it up to the Niners being elite, being great. For what it's worth, they would have another different defensive coordinator. Like Danny mentioned, D'Amico Ryans, they have a new defensive like some factors are changing within the Niners too. Like he's not losing to the same 11 defensive players, the same defensive coordinator on the same field in the same uniforms, the same time of day, same weather, same temperature.
But
like,
they're not
a lot of factors are adjusting as well.
But they're not losing in the same fashion either, right? So one year they put up a lot of points offensively and the defense fails them. Last year, their defense was on point and their offense failed them. So one out of the 2 situations is been on the offense. The other half was on the defense. The first time that we played the 49ers and the offense was there and the defense wasn't, were we blaming Dak Prescott there? I bet you we were.
I bet you there was conversation. Really there? They scored 17 points and Dak only threw 1 touchdown and he still had an interception. He didn't play phenomenal. I mean,
nobody's saying phenomenal, but like we're talking, so 17-12, the 5-point difference is the reason why Dak Prescott can't get it done in your mind?
No, because it's the way the defense has played in those 2 games as well.
Okay.
There's a clear difference in the defense.
But he played, he dropped 40. he put Tom Brady in the retirement home.
That's awesome. That doesn't change what happened in the 49ers game.
If you're if you're gonna be absolute, I guess this is a stance you'll take, but I'm not gonna live in the absolute world.
I think it's a little absolute to say it's just because they're a great team. Like, and I know you're saying some blame would have to fall on him. Like,
I think you guys are picking, speaking of straw, you guys are picking one point of it. I absolutely have zero issue. I've just spent 6 tweets today talking about Stephon Gilmore in a negative light. You don't think I'm going to be afraid to do that about Dak Prescott? Like, if he deserves it, he's going to get it. But the man who gets like smashed on consistently when he doesn't deserve it, I'm not going to go out here and just throw the whole thing on him. He will get the justified, a justified dessert from me if he deserves it, but we'll see what happens.
Tony, let me just say, when the Cowboys blew out the Giants in week 1, we all made a lot of content about Dak has beaten the New York Giants 10 times in a row, right? Like, he owns them, whatever. If he were to lose a 3rd game in a row against the 49ers, I mean, it's not 10, you know what I mean? It's only 30% of the way there, but like, that would be a significant thing. And this is not in the playoffs, this particular one. And the context of it does matter. And the context will get lost on some people in the name of just kind of, speaking whatever point you want to. But like, this is a significant performance for Dak Prescott. Like we talked about, this might be the biggest regular season game of the Micah McCarthy era. This might be the biggest regular season game of Dak Prescott's career, given the context involved. I'm not saying he has to come out and show out. He can absolutely have an efficient game like he did against New England on Sunday. He can absolutely just take all that low-hanging fruit. But if he struggles, if he continues to struggle with this defense, and you can argue about the first playoff loss in the wild card round 2 years ago, whatever, but that feeds that narrative that there's one team that he can get over. And I agree with you. It's stupid to say, oh, because you own 30 teams and not one, like we got to get rid of you. I don't think anyone here is saying that, but it would be time to, at least reconcile that there is a San Francisco 49ers shaped ceiling above Dak Prescott.
I mean, I think you said it in a different way than I have. Like, Dak Prescott, yes, if you want to win a Super Bowl, you're going to have to beat a team that you've either struggled as a team or as personally done. But like, I'm not going to sit here and diminish, in my opinion, right? And you guys going to clearly disagree. I'm going to sit here and say, wow, that's a good 49ers football team. Like, I'm not looking to place blame. I'm looking to give credit, right? So if Dak Prescott doesn't get it done for the 3rd time, it's wow, style make fights. This is a good 49ers team who understand how to attack this offense and this personnel. If they beat it, I'm going to be super impressed. If they don't, I'm going to say, well, we still haven't figured out that 49ers thing just yet, but I'm not going to say, well, are we going to renew Dak Prescott's contract? Like, are we looking at Trey Lance? Like, that's insane to me.
Annie, you have been very quiet. You've been absorbing. It's been marinating. I suppose you're ready to be thrown on the grill. So how do you feel at this moment in time?
Well, it's different for me because I'm not. I have a clear choice between McCarthy and Prescott. I know which one's good and which one I'm not certain about. So to me,
you love Mike so much, Danny.
No, you know what? No, I just go with what I see, and I've seen enough body of work from Prescott to know what he's capable of. So I'm not worried about Dak. Now, am I worried about Dak in this offense a little bit? And is it? And to the point that people are saying, there are times where he is not playing, as well as he could. But to answer that question, who am I going to blame if the Cowboys offense go out and sputter? Probably Mike McCarthy is my answer, because I feel like that he's the guy that needs to get that's made all these changes to make Dak fit into what he wants for this offense. They've changed the way they are. The Cowboys are super conservative now. They're careful. I'm not saying it's bad. Actually, they're scoring points. I mean, it's not touchdowns, but they're scoring points. So I'm not ready to just like throw it away with Mike. I'm still giving him a chance, but I do have some concerns. I think he's a little cowardly at times. I think those things that come and bite him when we face really tough teams. But Prescott's this team's quarterback. He's going to remain this team's quarterback. We know what he's capable of. But at the same time, if you ask who to blame, you really have to break down and look at every individual situation. Like the red zone, when he throws a pass that's too high for CD, that's Dak's fault. When he throws a pass that Scooney should have caught, that's Scooney's fault. I mean, when Pollard runs into him, whose fault is that? Or when someone misses a block, that's not on Prescott. So you have to really take a look at each individual thing, figure out what's going on before you can really make a fair decision.
I think that's really fair. This is a tense week, if it isn't obvious. I'll be honest, I lost track of all the points that were coming in from the crowd because you guys were a little bit messy, if I'm just be straight up with y'all. So we've landed here. Team Seniority has 75 points, and Team The Riders Block has 78. Brandon, you brought up the Steelers. I picked the 2 years that the Cowboys lost Super Bowls to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So thanks for bringing that up and, upsetting us all even more. Tough scene. Anyway, let's move on. Because we're in the mood to, I guess, like fight and blame and argue with people. Let's start with you, Brandon. I'd like different answers. So we're going to go Brandon, Danny, Chris, Tony here. Give Tony a minute to cool off, put him on ice. Who is under the most pressure this week? You cannot say Dak Prescott. You cannot say Mike McCarthy. Those are obvious answers. But Brandon, you do get to go first.
Oh, I mean, I'd have to say the rush defense. I think it's not just
Brandon,
one area.
it's one person. It's one single. You can't throw a blanket on like a big group of players.
Well, I don't think there's that much pressure across the board. I think it's a team pressure. That's
Brandon. Speaking of teams, you're letting yours down. You have to pick one player.
Okay, if I'm going to pick one player, then what's that?
I said there's 22 of them. We just got to pick one.
I mean, to me, I would say it's the offensive line. It's Chuma Adoga. I'll just pick that because to me, there's not one particular player that has more pressure than it's Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is the guy that's under the most pressure. The coaching staff is under the most pressure. To me, after that, it's just the rest of the team. That's how I'm looking at it. But if I'm picking one person that I can't pick because it's Dak Prescott because we've spent 3/4 of the show about it, then I'll go with Adoga if he's going to play at left tackle because I don't care what anybody says. I just don't think Adoga should be playing left tackle. I think he looks shaky out there, and the 49ers front line will just destroy him. I don't think in Tyron Smith, we don't know what's going to happen. There's been the reports. We don't know what's going to happen this week. So is he going to play? Is he not? I'm going to say he's probably not going to play. So that means Adoga is going to be at left tackle. So at that point, at that stage, I don't trust him as much against the 49ers front four. I just don't. I think he's on an island. I've been saying it since Tyron Smith got injured once again. Tyler Smith should be at left tackle. I don't care about moving him over and this and that. To me, he's the guy that if Tyler Smith can't play, he should be playing left tackle. So I think, in a game like this, I feel like Chuma Adoga is going to be in trouble. I don't see it from him. I think he's more an inside player than an outside player. I know a lot of people I've seen on X that they do like him and they think he's done a decent job. I don't know what film y'all are watching. I just don't think I think he just needs to be an inside. I think Tyler Smith should be a tackle right now.
I would offer that Chuma deserves a whole hell of a lot of credit for what he's done this season. Brandon, he signed with this team to be a reserve, to sit back and chill on what a lot of people foolishly think is a great offensive line. He's had to play left guard. He's had to play left tackle. He has had to fill the roles of maybe the best young left guard in the NFL, and Tyler Smith, that we're seeing more and more as every week passes by that he's made his return, and one of the best left tackles of all time. He has had to play two different positions through the first 4 weeks of the season, and he did not get run over last week. I mean, he has way over delivered in terms of what he was asked or going to be asked to do when the Cowboys first signed.
He's also made Dak run for his life.
I think you're being really picky on Chuma and not contextualizing, who he is, what the expectation was, and how dire the circumstances have been that he's had to play two different positions so far. But he's your answer. It took us 3 tries, but we got one player. So Danny Phantom, who is the one player who you believe is under the most pressure that is not Chuma Adoga, obviously not Dak Prescott, and not Mike McCarthy? By the way, Ron the Don says there's one sneaky answer, and I'll be giving +5 if it comes out.
Well, I don't know if my answer is sneaky, but it's going to be unexpected because I'm going to say that Micah Parsons is under the most pressure. And the reason I'm going to choose Micah is because he is the leader of this defense. He is the lion that wants to eat. He's the guy that wants to be defensive player of the year. And I'll tell you what, if the Cowboys have a chance against this 49ers run defense, it's going to take a disciplined and focused Micah Parsons, where he is going to have to basically, not stay over aggressive, but at the same time be super aggressive. And I think he's the straw that stirs the drink, because everything's going to be facilitated around Micah. And if the Cowboys defensive leader struggles and the 49ers are really good about. You'll take away people. There's teams that have been able to neutralize Micah and done a good job with it. If the Niners are able to do this, then it's going to ask the question, just like, is this defense really that good? Micah is got to come out there and make plays, play well, let the other his teammates feed on his energy, and bring this stout run defense against Christian McCaffrey and this 49ers offense, and shut down this really good high scoring team so far this year. That, to me, I feel will just set the tone. And if he comes out there and disappoints, then it's just going to bring a lot of doubt. So I think there's a lot of pressure. Micah, he talks about how living for these moments. I want him to come out there and deliver.
Danny, you raked up an enormous amount of points. Diesel says that you are spitting fire in the comment section, where we're currently at. Massive lead picked up for Team Seniors here, 100 to 78. I should have named all the underclassmen. God, I missed a great opportunity there. But whatever. Danny, I agree with you. That's my answer. And Tony, I think this speaks to the Dak thing a little bit. Like, the expectations are different, and that's unfair, but that's just reality when you're the quarterback, and certainly when you're Micah, when you've proven what he's proven. And Danny, I love that you brought up, and I don't think any of us are saying Micah doesn't have the right to talk or to say this or that, but Micah calls himself the Lion. Micah talks about, like you said, wanting to be in these moments. And again, I love Micah Parsons as much as everyone else, but after the Cowboys blew a 14-point fourth quarter lead last season in Green Bay, Micah literally came out and was like, that will never happen again. If Dak gives me a 14-point second half lead, I'll never blow it again. They literally blew it in Jacksonville, like right after that. And so it's like, Micah, you're great. And like, you've got more than enough benefit of the doubt to, have a few, statements go back and give you some egg on your face. But man alive, if you want to be the team that goes in on primetime against the big bad 49ers, hell yeah, Micah Parsons has to be the dude to absolutely kick some ass. Great job, Danny Phantom. That was the answer I was looking for.
It was hard to follow Chuma Doga, though.
Chris, good luck following Micah. But you've got some work to do, and you've pulled off some heroic wins before.
Yeah. My answer is actually going to be Brandon Cooks. It's going to be the new guy who just walked into the wide receiver room. And it's not necessarily because he's done anything bad per se this offseason. This season, but all offseason, there's so much talk about Brandon Cooks is going to be the guy who really brings this vertical threat to the offense. And we haven't seen it yet. And, for whatever case may be, we just haven't seen that yet. And I think that we need to see that in this 49ers game, because I don't think that we're just going to be able to dink and dunk our way down the field consistently against this defense. This is a really good defense, and Nick Bosa is going to be getting pressure, and they have a good secondary. They have a great linebacking core, headlined by Fred Warner, who's the best linebacker in the NFL, in my opinion. We're going to need some 25-plus yard plays here and there, and I think that that's going to be brought by Brandon Cooks being able to have that vertical threat down the field. We know CeeDee Lamb can do it. I'm going to be honest. When CeeDee Lamb had that crazy catch on the sideline in that divisional loss last year, when that happened, I was like, wow, we are winning this game. Like that play, I was like, wow, I was convinced that we were going to get that win. CeeDee's going to be able to do what he can do, but we need a guy next to him who's going to extend the field and give Dallas a deep threat, because then if we have a deep threat, then the 49ers defense will be respecting that deep ball more, and it's going to free up more in the run game for Tony Pollard as well. So I just think, Brandon Cooks hasn't really been called out for anything bad this season, and I don't think he should, because he hasn't done anything wrong. But like, this is his game to really show why that hype was there and why they were content with getting him instead of other guys in the offseason. So I think it's a big game for him to really step up and lead this offense.
Chris Halling still pissed off that the Cowboys did not trade for DeAndre Hopkins in the offseason.
All I'm saying is that if we had DeAndre Hopkins, maybe our red zone issues wouldn't be as bad. That's all I'm saying, because he is a great red zone.
That's all you're saying, but you've got 16 Kyle Pitts posts at Dallas Cowboys Squad on Instagram that beg to differ.
Listen, I know it's not realistic, but a man can dream.
It's not only not realistic, Chris. It is like against the laws of gravity, not realistic. Like it's a silly season kind of thing.
Well, listen. At one point, gravity didn't exist, and it wasn't even gravity wasn't thought to exist. And Isaac came in, and he changed the laws of physics for everyone.
So, we wouldn't have any draft capital if it was up to Chris.
Hey, it's worth it if
we wouldn't be stuck on the earth. We'd all be in outer space if it were up to Chris. That's okay, Chris. This isn't physics 101. You know what I mean? You're
good. I was always bad at science, in school. So like
clearly you were.
Yeah, no, we're gonna ignore that.
Okay. By the way, I think the answer is interesting, Chris, but it is an extension of McCarthy. I like Kevin's comment here who says, I like the answer, but it's more McCarthy and play calling. Cooks just can't just check in and take off on a random go route. The Cowboys just haven't needed that particular element of their offense. So to your point, maybe that's what Brandon Cooks is emblematic of. All right. Tony, as it stands, actually, let me update here. Chris picked up 5 more. Y'all have the lead. You have a 2-point lead. We have one more question after this, but you do get to answer, Tony. Who is under the most pressure this week and why? Can't go Dak, McCarthy, Chuma Edoga, Micah Parsons, or Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, if you follow me on Twitter or X, whatever, you'll kind of see where I'm going to allude to with this answer. I take no pride in it, right? I did a thread on some things that I'm a little nervous about.
Threads is a different platform, Tony. That's not Twitter. So
I did a thread on X of different videos that gets me nervous and the pick I'm picking is Stephon Gilmore. What the 49ers do offensively in the intermediate with the crossing, shallow routes. Stephon Gilmore, if that's his weakness so far, that is the weakness. He's trailing guys. It's not always the speed guys too, right? Like Marquise Brown is a tough pull. He's always, 3 to 4 yards behind. I understand that there may be some crossing routes, but when it's man coverage, he has an issue with staying with some of these speed guys in the intermediate crossing across the field. I think him being the cornerback 1 in replacement of Trayvon Diggs is going to be a huge factor. Can he stay healthy? Can he stay productive? I will say he has done a really good job. Most of his film is really exceptional. Like he still is himself, and what he does is a really good cornerback. But there are some things that I'm afraid the 49ers might be able to take advantage of. If they get the running game going, if they're able to get that play action working, and they're able to do these long developing, bootleg roll out with, easy throws, one read throws for Brock Purdy, Stephon Gilmore could be on the receiving end of some of these big chunk plays. Guys like Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, these are fast guys. These are guys who run over the middle. So it's something I'm worried about, right? I think we saw Deron Bland have a really good game last week. He's a guy that we feel good about, but at the same time, we need Stephon Gilmore to be cornerback 1. We didn't bring him in here to be that guy, but we need that. And much like I feel about Dak Prescott and some of the offensive stuff, styles make fights. And I think that this type of offense may be something that they focus and try to attack Gilmore on. He'll just need to be on his A game.
Brandonium. It's a new nickname I'm trying out, by the way. But Brandon.
Okay, I'll let it fly. To Tony's point, though, I do have to make a point to that. Watching speed guys do deep crosses is one of the toughest routes to cover in the game. So I'm not going to give him too much flack for not being able to stay with a guy like Hollywood Brown, who's one of the fastest guys in the league. I think Stephon Gilmore, he still checks enough of the boxes to me where I'm not concerned. If he's our QB or he's our cornerback 1, I'm not worried about it. Deron Bland's doing a hell of a job on the other side. The cornerbacks, I'm not too concerned about.
You made my point exactly, right? Marquise Brown, Kendrick Bourne, Devontae Parker, different animals when it's Brandon Ayuk and it's Deebo Samuel. And this is what the 49ers do exceptionally well. They do it to everybody. And when it's Gilmore and that's his weakness, he could do 95% things at an excellent level. If this is the 5% that they struggle with, that's why I'm worried about. That's why I did it. And the film doesn't lie.
That's why you also have safeties too, to help out.
Yeah, but they were there the last 4 games too.
Danny, did you raise your hand or did you raise the roof?
I was trying to do a high five, but I couldn't get it. A good job, Tony.
Oh, yeah.
It was very awkward. It got awkward.
For the audio audience, Danny was trying to kind of Brady Bunch high five, through the boxes, but or I guess Hollywood Squares. Maybe y'all don't know what that is, the young crowd, because you like to call people old. So whatever. All right. As we head into the final question, I need to add these points. We got a 4th quarter lead going on here. Kind of improbable comeback. It would have to be 117 to 103 in favor of the seniors. So Chris, Brandon, we need a senior prank. I know that that's generally done by the seniors, but you need to prank the seniors themselves to be able to obviously come home with the win here. So we'll start with Tony. Simple question. I just want a numerical answer and a very short kind of bullet point, wrap it up kind of thing. 1 to 10. How nervous are you for Sunday? 10 obviously being the most. 10 is like, holy crap. 1 is like, I'm super chill.
I'd say it's an 8. This is a good football team. They've obviously had a number the first 2 years. The Cowboys have let us know that this is a very important game for them to win. They feel like this is a measuring stick. They believe and have said as much that they think this is a Super Bowl caliber team. they got to go out there and prove it. And Danny alluded to the fact that the seedings play into it. You may look at this game come January and say, if we got this one, maybe we're the 2 seed, maybe they're the 1 seed. This is a big football game. So I'm 8.
Brandonium.
I have it as a 6, slightly above 5. You know, I'm not that nervous, but I'm kind of, you know, the Niners are a Super Bowl contender, but I do think Dallas has, you know, they have the best defense in the league. I think Dak Prescott is playing well. He's playing well in the system at this point. And I feel like the running game is going to do some damage. I don't think the Niners can cover all the weapons at once for the Cowboys. So I do think this could be Dak's best statistical game from a passing yardage perspective and touchdown. So I feel like if we get that done and and the Cowboys defense does what they normally do, I feel pretty good about the game. But at the same time, Brock Purdy's been doing a lot of things. Like he's number one in a lot of categories right now. So he's on a different level, and and I know Tony was very wrong about Brock Purdy, but it's okay. You don't expect much out of a former 7th round pick, but I will say that it's going to be a close game. That's why I put it at 6. And the reason why I tipped the scales just a little bit over is just because the Niners right now, and I agree with Jerry Jones on it. They are the best team in the league right now. So I think the Cowboys are just a notch below right now. But I think if things go right and the Cowboys could play to the best of their ability and do that, I think the Cowboys can come out with a win.
Daniel Phantom.
I'm super nervous for this one, and I think a lot of it has to do with just what this team has shown me over the first 4 weeks, because it's lifted me up, and then it's come crashing down, and then it's lifted me up again. So it's like I really want to know how good this team is, and the 49ers are going to tell me this. I mean, I'm going to put myself at a 9. I'll leave myself a little room for some more nervousness, but that's how high it is. I just think that it's a super important game, and this team, I feel like the Cowboys, they haven't convinced us yet. Just are they legit? Are they real? They've given us a taste, and it's kind of like you're trying to date a girl and you think she likes you, but then she don't talk to you all of a sudden, and then she sees you again. It's like, hey, how come we don't hang out and stuff? So I just feel like I want to hang out. I want the Cowboys to just come along and show us that they are Super Bowl contenders, and a great way to do it is to beat up on the 49ers.
I can't wait for the next question when we go around the table and discuss our favorite romantic comedies. Danny, I'm sure yours will be wonderful. Chris Halling, your answer.
My answer is going to be a 10. Honestly, I'm extremely nervous. My legs are shaking just thinking about it right now. Like, Christian McCaffrey is playing the best football, honestly, that he's arguably playing the best football he's played in his career. And, our run defense, didn't look great against the Cardinals. I am kind of nervous about our secondary. I will admit I'd be a lot less nervous if we did have Trayvon Diggs, but Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle. I mean, listen, George Kittle has had the Cowboys number a few times throughout his career, and I do like that we have Jaron Kearse, but at the end of the day, there's so many different things to key in on that offense specifically. It's going to be very hard for the defense, and we haven't seen our team, jump through that hurdle yet of getting past them, and I think it's going to say a lot about the Cowboys, and it's going to say a lot about Dak Prescott and what kind of team we have right now. I really do believe that. And it's just going to be a nightmare too if we lose this game in like blowout fashion, because then the rest of the season we're just going to hear like, oh, I mean, it doesn't matter. You're still not the number 1 team in the NFC. And this is a season where we're really supposed to have those kind of expectations that this could be a Super Bowl season. And if we just get blown out by our biggest threat to make the Super Bowl, it's going to be a long season until the postseason. So I don't know. I'm very nervous about it. And I mean, I'm not as nervous about the thought of losing to them as I am about losing to the Eagles out of pure hatred. But in terms of just nerves about like what it means for the Cowboys and what it will say about us on a national standpoint, I'm very nervous.
Dan,
I just want to add one thing. Just think about your range of emotions, like just what Chris was saying, like to go from losing and how you're going to feel, and then and beating the 49ers, and just how different it is. So that tells you everything you need to know about how big this game is.
All very interesting and solid answers in your own right. I think Chris is the only person who got this right, because the answer is a 10. And like, I think a normal game is like a 5, just kind of like right off the bat. Like, you're always nervous because games are so precious in the NFL. Obviously divisional games kind of add a little bit of intrigue and elevate the magnitude and the worth that games have. This isn't that. This is a little bit more narrative driven in terms of, them owning them, or owning the Cowboys. We've talked about that a lot here tonight. But like, we're all on edge. Like, think about what was the last roundtable that was this like feisty and this spicy? Like we're all like, it's going to swing one way or another, to Danny's point. And to Chris's point, like, it won't just be that people say it and we'll get annoyed at like the national talk shows. It will live in our heads. Like, we will know, like, the Cowboys could go blow out the Bills in December, and we will think in the back of our minds, man, this is great, but like, what if they have to go back to San Francisco? What if they're lucky and draw home field advantage, but San Francisco is the team that they have to face? Like, they will continue to live and perpetuate rent-free in our minds. And as if all of that weren't true, they have beaten the Cowboys in the last two like most meaningful games that the franchise has played. I understand the Tom Brady game, to your point, Tony, was very significant, but like, those were big time opportunities that the Cowboys had some distinct advantages in, and they blew them. They lost. Like, and we could sit here and point fingers and blame whoever we want for them, but like, that is a very scary proposition. This is the first time in I don't even know how long that I'm not going to pick the Cowboys. I can't. Like, how can you, Brandon, I know you said you were going to. You cannot objectively pick them. Like, they have zero benefit of the doubt with regards to this team. We can believe that they can win. We can certainly try to manifest and will it into existence, but there is no sound reason to believe that the Cowboys can win this game. So that has me at a 10, as if I weren't at a 10 already based off of all of those things. Tony, to your point, and to the point we talked about early on, the Cowboys themselves have come out and said, like, this is a big old game. This is bigger than a normal thing. So as if I weren't stressed enough, now you have told me that this means more to you than these already difficult games tend to mean in a general sense. So yeah, I am at an absolute 10. Chris, you got it right. Did I elevate you, Danny, Tony, or Brandon or did Chris elevate you from your answers? Or are you guys going to hold your number?
I would be at a 10 if we didn't have Chuma Edoga.
That's fair. I mean, great point of depth. Brandon, are you going to raise your point from a 6? Or are we Chicken Little here?
I'm firm 100%. I believe in this team.
Tony, you want to sit at 8?
I like 8. I mean, it's enough nervous energy for me. I'm not going to, it's a regular season game, so I'll try to keep that in perspective. So, like, yeah, an 8 feels good. I would creep up to 8.5. I'd say you give me a half a point.
Wow, we did it. We moved the line, Chris. So kudos to us.
I just want to say real quick,
okay.
just interrupt real quick. You were talking about a heroic effort needed in this fourth quarter, and I was calculating in the comments, and it looked like I got like 30 points for my answer. So I think I definitely made this close at the buzzer.
It is a close contest. I can tell you that. But last comment before we announce the winner, I agree with Kevin. The noon and 3 o'clock games, because I'm Central Time Zone, Kevin, are going to take forever this week. Like they're going to take absolutely forever. Like this is the Sunday to put something in the crock pot, because you're going to have like more than the normal like 6 hours. Like you'll have a lot of time. Yeah, tough scene. Tony, you're going to raise your hand. The points are already tabulated.
No, I was gonna say, to that point, I have a wedding on Saturday night, so I'm gonna be playing sick on Sunday. It's just gonna be a very, very long day.
Okay. Well, best of luck to you. Make sure you do the Cupid shuffle when it comes on. That's the one that you got to go and like, you'll look like you know what you're doing. Brandon, are you raising your hand? Are you a Cupid shuffle fan?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's frustrating to kind of wait until the 8 o'clock, the prime time Eastern time Sunday night game. But to be honest with you, the NFL Red Zone, the early games and the afternoon games are a lot of fun. So Syracuse grad, I got to mention the Syracuse guy, of course. Scott Hansen does a hell of a job with the Red Zone, so it makes it a lot of fun when the Cowboys are on late or on Monday night.
Former member of the Orange football team, Scott Hansen was. So good for him. Scott rules. I was thinking about this the other day. We need some shirts that say 7 hours of commercial-free football. So, and that's also disingenuous because it sometimes goes longer than 7 hours. But I get that like 7 hours and change of commercial-free football doesn't sound the same. Okay, the points are in. Chris, great job at the very end, but just not enough. By a score of 125 to 124, our seasoned veterans take home the dub. Team seniority. They came. They saw. They said it was the biggest regular season game of their own personal era as a duo together, and they conquered. Danny Phantom, as the elder statesman of the seniority group, which Tony named, you have the right to speak first. How are you feeling? Who do you want to thank? What's on your mind? What's in your heart?
Honestly, it was a lot closer than I expected. And, I have to say that, I was taking shots at Brandonium, but he made some great points. And in all honesty, Chuma's got his work cut out for him. It's going to be a big thing. And
if he plays, if that's still an if proposition. If
yeah. Yeah, and Chris too. I have to say, you know, outside of his lack of understanding of general science, he did a really good job making points too. So no, I have to say, good job with the youngins did good.
Tony, Danny chose to speak with deference for your competition tonight. Maybe you want to be unclassy, you know what I mean? Like take the victory lap. Like, how do you want to handle this? You got a little bit tense early on, so now is your time to maybe like pop the bottles and go crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we won, but I wanted it to be like a college football, playoff committee win. I wanted it to win impressively. And as far as I'm concerned, this isn't an impressive point total. So we won, but I wanted more.
Wow, a diss at the end. Brandon, he couldn't even win with grace against you guys. He won by 1 point, and he's over here acting bigger and taller than y'all.
That's all right. Hey, Tony, good job up there. I'll keep it nice. You know, we gotta go on a high note. So everybody did a great job tonight. RJ, great job as always too.
Chris, you didn't go to Syracuse, so Brandon was disappointed to have you as a teammate, but it was a heroic effort nonetheless. How do you feel about falling just 1 point short?
I mean, it is what it is.
How are you guys going to go back to the writer's block next week and tell Howman and Brandon that you guys lost together?
Hey, listen, I won't care at all about this loss as long as I go back to the writer's block and the Cowboys dominated the 49ers on Sunday Night Football. I'll be a very happy man. This will all be in the past, man. I'll be a very happy guy.
Chris was trolling me on the writer's block this morning anyways, because when we did our chat, and he's a Clemson fan, full disclosure, and in Clemson miraculously
the best orange-colored college, right?
Agreed.
Yeah, the wrong orange. The right orange is the Syracuse orange, but we'll just
Tony, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I will say this is a shameless company plug, but I haven't had a chance to listen to the writer's block yet, but I heard it got a little testy, and I encourage everybody in the comments to listen to it, because I heard it
not
got
as bad as this one though, because no, it wasn't as bad as this one, but me and Howman got into a little discussion.
What does that say, Danny, about Brandon and Chris? Because they were a part of both shows.
Yeah, I think you might have your common denominator there. If you're looking for
that's a mathematical principle, Chris.
Oh yeah,
denominator. So
we're not Deron Bland. We're not Bland. We'll just say that.
Can I just say too, because I've been getting a lot of like tweets, a lot of messages, a lot of talk on here from all these people saying that I'm a Dak hater. I would just like to put it out there. Firm opinion, firm stance. Dak is a top 10 quarterback. I am not hating on him. We should not move on. Trey Lance is not the answer. Okay. I am very confident in Dak Prescott. However, there are times when we need to put blame on him and not act like everything is not his fault. Okay. There are times when he doesn't do what is necessary to take the team to the next level when things around him aren't going well. And that's okay. It happens to other players as well. Okay. So I'm not a Dak hater. I do really like Dak Prescott. He's a great person. He's a great player. I hate the fact that I have to be the one who is like hating on Dak on here, because I really don't want to do it, because
I don't know how you could have been a part of this for the last hour and change and think you're the only one who was, kind of willing to hold his feet to the fire. But I
just had to put it out there. I had to put it on
record
that I do like Dak Prescott. And
by the way, for all of our sakes, Diesel 80 says I predicted this win and I predict the Cowboys will also win. So Diesel 80 is working in the manifesting department. We had a lot of contributions, by the way, for the best orange in college football. Somebody said the U. Who was that here that said
absolutely not.
The worst orange is Tennessee, though. That is an ugly orange. Maybe it's a popular opinion. Tennessee sucks. I'm sorry.
The man's said the U. Kevin said the Volunteers.
No, I'm sorry, Kevin. That's negative 10 points.
Thankfully, none of you said that stupid school in Austin. Okay, let's get out of here. Tony,
hold up. Sorry to interrupt. You said that there would be an individual winner at the end of this as well. I would like that to be revealed.
You would like that to be.
I would like that to be me.
Yeah, he forgot. That's why he's typing it right now.
I'm not typing anything. The individual winner, Danny.
It's Tony. Hey,
Danny won. Danny was the most calm, the most reserved, the least emotional, the most compact. He kept things tight. He kept things neat. He kept things rational for the most part. I mean, and he, took some, not exactly thin-veiled shots across the table at his fellow roundtablers, and I always award that. So, Danny, you were sound and you were spicy. That's the combination they were looking for. Congratulations to you, Danny.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm starting to get a hang of things of how to get my little points here and there, and so no, it was a lot of fun, and I got to sit back and listen to you guys beat up on Tony for a little while, and but no, I think at the end of the day, I think you made the right decision when you awarded the winner.
Yeah, you are the Max Verstappen of the Blog on the Boys universe. You guys won the constructors together. You and Tony are effectively Red Bull, but you won the world championship individually on top of that. So congratulations to you, Danny.
I'm taking all the money, by the way. Sorry, Tony.
Oh, yeah, a true Johnny Bananas move right there. Okay, Chris, I know you pandered for the award and didn't get it, so tough scene there.
It's okay.
Tony,
Listen. LeBron James didn't win Finals MVP when he lost to the Golden State Warriors, but he was definitely the best player on the floor in that.
all right, Chris, we've gone off the deep end enough here. So, Tony, because you were on the winning team but did not win the individual award, that means that you are up to task for our special assignment to close this out. And this is very specific to you. I mentioned the Cupid Shuffle, so this cannot be your answer. Give us something that you promise to dance to on Saturday night at your wedding. A song that you promise that you will hit the dance floor to. And the people here are going to demand video, photographic evidence. I won't go that far, but you're a man of honor, so I trust that whatever you're going to tell us, you will 100% hit the dance floor to.
I'm trying to figure it out. I don't think I could say the word, but it's sang by Juvenile and starts with
Oh, back that ass.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I thought you were gonna go Motown Philly, but you know.
No, I this is unpopular, but I'm not really a huge fan of the Cupid Shuffle, the whole Mambo No. 5 thing. I'm
The chicken
Cotton Eye
dance.
Joe.
I figured you for a chicken dance.
Yeah.
Macarena.
the Cotton Eye Joe. I'm not a really big fan of, like, anything that's like, gets the masses.
Tony's got 2 left feet.
I mean, I dance and I don't stop dancing, but I don't love the whole, I don't know. It's not my thing.
Okay. Well, you promised. So if you don't do it, you'll be the reason the Cowboys lose. No pressure. Anyway,
I'll
all
make
right,
my
let's get out
wife
of here.
take a video.
All right, Rachel, we're holding you to that. Chris, give us 3 words and then we leave.
Gravity's real.